Greetings from paradise. Welcome to the Enjoy the Journey Luxury Travel Show live from the Florida Keys. A special welcome to our live stream viewers and podcast listeners around the world. I'm your host, David Hartman, owner of Fantastic Endeavors Travel Agency. I'm the travel agent that always asks two questions of my clients. What is your bucket list trip, and where do you wish you were right now? Wish you were here with me in Alaska. Today's show is all about Alaska. We're my friend and now agent of my agency, Sue Mooney's coming on soon to talk about Alaska and her trip recently in 2019. And it's all about the last frontier. What is happening? Can you travel there now? And how should you travel there in the future? And you're going to learn a lot from Sue because she is an Alaska travel expert and has been there recently on a full Alaska cruise tour. As always, please like today's show and follow our social media, comment and ask questions or any trivia questions you may have today, answer in the chat below. Subscribe to our Fantastic Endeavors YouTube channel to get notified when we're live or upload new content. Plus, all of our past episodes of the show are on YouTube on Fantastic Endeavors. And check those out and like those as you watch them. Just sit back and enjoy. Our show is brought to you by Fantastic Endeavors Travel Agency, of which I'm a sponsor and an owner. And Sue is part of that too. Let me play these slides here real quick on social media. And if you like our show, like what we do, please support us by using our agents to plan your next trip, especially to Alaska. If you know Sue, if you know Skip Shear, who's also an agency, please patronize us. And we are specialists of what we do, especially at Alaska. So I want to bring Sue on real quick. And as we talk about an Alaska travel update, Sue, you're on the show.
Hey, good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, Sue. I got to tell a story first before I let you tell about yourself because it was so funny. My show was brand new. You're already my client. You were referred to me from Mary Dimma Kendall here in the Keys, who knows you, and she's a longtime client. And you were watching my show in May. I announced my bucket list trip to Antarctica, and you're like, "That's it. I want to become a travel agent."
How do I become David Hartman? How do I become David Hartman?
The exact quote was, "That's it. I'm done." It was the Memorial Day weekend show when I announced that cruise. You're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
And here you are today, officially part of my agency, doing very well. And speaking of Alaska, not only you're a client, but you've booked some pretty hardcore travel to Alaska I want you to talk about. But first, tell us about who you are and where you're sitting today and how you got to the show today.
Sure. I'm Sue Mooney. I'm an independent travel agent with Fantastic Endeavors Incorporated. However, I'm not in Key Largo like David, but I am in Gouldsboro, Maine. Actually, the curtains are shut, but Acadia National Park sits right behind my left shoulder here. And my husband and I have been here permanently since 2017. Love it. A little cold, but it's otherwise quite beautiful. And I'm actually a real estate agent by trade, but now I am also a travel agent. So quite busy and trying to keep up. Travel's nice. Coming back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you entered real estate during the recession of 2008, and then you entered travel during the COVID recession. So you like to pick your challenging times once you enter career.
It gives you time to train. It's training time. That's the time you take to train. And it's good. Perfect timing.
I will say you've been a fantastic student, and right away you picked a time when you had time to train, and you went right after everything, got certified for your CLIA classes, got certified by all the Disney and Universal specialists that we have, courses that we do. You went after everything and passed with flying colors. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's fun. It's a good time. A lot of information.
That's one thing about becoming a travel agent. It is a nonstop learning process, but that's why we are the experts.
That's right.
Now, we brought you on today's show because it was about Alaska. I was overdue for a show with all that's changing and going on. And I do want to talk about two things when it comes to an update. And basically, you can travel to Alaska now. But you have been to Alaska recently, correct?
I have. My husband and I's 30th wedding anniversary was May 2019. And that's how I met David. And went on a Princess cruise, which also included a Denali Explorer land package. which
Nice.
is 4 days prior to departure. And from what I understand, you can do post also. Yeah, it depends, I guess, on which direction you're going. Amazing trip. I cannot say enough. It is eye candy from beginning to end. What an experience. I would love to go back again. Maybe do land only. Not really sure on that, but I don't know. Do you want me to get into details now? Oh, there we go. Okay, I see where you are.
Yeah, we're gonna let you give a background of Alaska first, because I think that will set the tone for our update. I'm kind of changing things up a little bit. So go ahead. I'm showing your pictures. There's about 30 in here that we'll go through.
Yeah.
And when it's done, we'll pop back on. Our audio is still live, so go ahead and continue your story about the trip.
Actually, what you're looking at, when we started, we actually landed in Anchorage, and we spent the night there, and then went on, like I said, went on to the land package. The land package consisted of 2 Princess hotels. The original first one is the Mount McKinley Wilderness Lodge, and it is stunningly beautiful. It's got a great view of Denali. And Denali, that day when we arrived was majority of the time, there's a lot of time where Denali you can't see all the time. Well, it was like the skies opened up and you thought you were looking at it, but the peak is so high, you really almost can't believe what you're looking at. So we got very fortunate with our weather. We went the next day. You get on you put out your luggage the night before. The next morning you get up, you go on the bus. Now we go from McKinley to the Denali Princess Wilderness Lodge, and that gets you a little bit closer to Denali. And we spent the night there. And then we actually did quite a bit when we were there. We actually ATV'd, and we also did a flight, which we did not expect to do. But the weather was so clear and beautiful, and we met this company across the street. There's this little booths and things across from the hotel, but I never thought I would get on an airplane like that. But the air is so quiet. There's not like a lot of helicopters and a lot of airplanes flying around. It was just lovely. It was the best day. It was crystal clear out. We could see the hikers going up Denali. It was wonderful. And then we leave there. You put your luggage out the next morning. You get ready to go. Hotels, both of those hotels, I could say they're basic. They're both very basic hotels. Nothing too fancy, but they served their purpose, and they were spot on. They have this down to a science. Timing is everything. The way they get your luggage and So then we went to, let's say, I'm not sure where the railway, the Wilderness Rail took us from Denali into Whittier. Now,
okay. This
is a highlight. The train is a highlight of the trip. It is a 10-hour ride. It goes through the most magnificent vistas I've ever seen. We saw caribou along this trek. We saw moose. We saw bear. And every cart has their own guy on a microphone yelling, "Look, look, look." Nice. It was so fun. It was, and we had a really good group on ours. So when people came through, they were all yelling at them, and it was like a party for 10 hours. It was wonderful. And like, I know you and I talked about this earlier, but we did go in May, which is really early for Alaska. But because the foliage was so early, we could see right into the woods. It was great. We saw so much wildlife that way. So just a little tidbit. I wouldn't regret the timing again. And honestly, we got lucky. The weather was quite warm. The beginning of the cruise, we had to have our jackets on, but when we got, more southerly, it warmed up quite a bit. Like I said, train ride, highlight. This train pulls right up and here is the cruise ship sitting right there. You look out the window, and there's the cruise ship. You got off the train, you got right onto the cruise. I mean, they have it down to a science. I mean, it was very impressive, their scheduling.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful.
Well, Princess, you were on the Coral Princess, which was in the pictures.
Yes, yeah.
And what's nice about Princess, they're always the gold standard for Alaska because they've been doing it the longest. They know the routes. That Port of Whittier is basically theirs. That was an old subdock. It was a secret subdock back in like World War II. Hence why it's so small and hidden. And they built the train right to it, which is amazing.
Amazing.
And then they own those lodges. They're all named Princess Lodge. I think the one in Fairbanks is not, but the main ones, Mount McKinley, Denali, all those are their lodges. And so I always tell people, and actually other cruise lines end up using their lodges. They also own part of the rail or something, have a relationship there. So they are the gold standard when it comes to Alaska as far as doing the combination tour. And they always emphasize going to Glacier Bay National Park, having so many cruise tours to choose from that. You can do a 7-night to Kenai Peninsula if you've been there before and want to see something totally different. So Princess definitely has it down.
Oh, for sure. They do. And actually, we like this particular ship because I know when I spoke to you, it's not like my husband doesn't want to put a suit on, but honestly, we're like hikers and things like that. So we wanted the most casual that we could find. This cruise ship in particular, we only had to dress up. I think one night was dress up night, for the whole week. And it was a very casual atmosphere, the entire time. It was terrific that way. Because you're tired. I'm telling you, we did a lot of stuff. It was exhausting at the end of the day,
Alaska, the thing is, the long days, people don't realize, like, you don't want to schedule a 6 o'clock dinner, because the long days and the excursions are long. And there's a big difference that I'll go into in a second when I have a map here to show in a bit. The land tour is a land tour. It's a true land tour you can do like separately from a cruise, but it's actually part of a cruise tour. And then you have amazing excursions from the cruise ship itself. And usually the big three are, Ketchikan, Sitka, and Juneau.
Mm-hmm.
And of those three ports, they have amazing excursions. The Deadliest Catch, helicopter to a glacier, airplane sightseeing, whale watching, which I have a clip of to show you in a minute. And those alone are like bucket list for a lot of people.
Yes. It was, they offer a lot. And it was hard to decide. I remember sitting here talking to my sister-in-law on her end, and there was a lot to choose from. And one for every budget too. You could have done something as simple as, maybe a hike would have been cheaper than maybe a full day bus tour of the Yukon, or whatever you chose. So there is a lot of, different options for excursions for sure.
Multitudes of options for excursions.
Yeah,
so what we're doing here, we have Sue Mooney here on my Enjoy the Journey Luxury Travel Show today, talking about Alaska. We decided to talk about our trip first to kind of build the foundation to get you excited about an update to Alaska. It's going to be a pretty brief update, but travel is available this summer to Alaska. And please, if you can go, because there's a lot of vendors up there, a lot of tourism up there that relies on the cruise industry. That's probably not going to happen this year again for the second summer. But travel to Alaska is possible. And then we're talking with Sue Mooney, who's lived in the Key Largo here in the Keys for 20 years. Now she's up in Maine, a real estate agent, now part of my agency as a travel specialist, and now Alaska travel specialist, talking to us about her trip to Alaska in May of 2019. And she already talked about why May is a good time to go. It's cooler, maybe, but with less foliage on the trees, especially on the train tour, right? You could see more wildlife.
You could see right into the woods. It was amazing. I don't think I would have seen that biggest moose I've ever seen. And I'm from Maine now, but the biggest moose I ever saw was in Alaska. It was amazing. Yeah. But,
and I do have some trivia from you guys today. If you have any questions for us, any comments, if you've been to Alaska, please put it in the chat wherever you're watching us. We are on my personal Facebook, where I think we're shared over Sue's Facebook today, and then my Fantastic Neighbors. I'm also on YouTube. Wherever you share it, we get it here. We can highlight your comment. So please leave a question for us in the chat, and I'll post that right now so you can do that. Next up, Sue, I do want to show these videos clips, and since they have audio, it's going to mute us, so we'll just let the audio go. The audio is faint, guys, but these are short clips. And let me get to those and get rid of this banner first. The banner. I first want to show you whale watching since we mentioned it. And then I'll end with a quick clip about Denali National Park and took from the air, which is just amazing. So let me get this. Where is Juneau whale watching? So this is a small clip that Sue gave me, and this is a juvenile, I would say, at humpback whale, right? A youth humpback whale, frolicking, probably looking for his mother.
Yeah, he was being very silly, and she was not happy about it.
Humpback whales, the way they migrate is they go to the tropics in the wintertime, and they basically, the mother actually starves down there. There's no food for them. Not what they eat is down there. The water's too warm for their food. And they birth there, and they migrate back to the north, and basically the bigger whales gorge the whole time to build up fat to survive the next birthing season. So this is a youth who followed its mom back to Juneau, just kind of playing around. Check it out right now.
Yep.
Pretty cool. I mean, that's just a young whale having fun. That's just a young whale having fun. That is a great video. Good footage. Where were you standing for that?
I'm sorry, say again.
Where were you standing for that? Like, where did you take it from?
Actually, we're on a boat. We actually took a Mendenhall Glacier and whale watching tour. So, you know, where we were exactly, I really couldn't tell you right now, but it wasn't overcrowded, the boat. It was obviously much bigger than that little boat that you saw in front of us. It was a 2-tier, second story, open up on top, had enough room for everybody. And that was the Princess also. That was a Princess excursion.
Very cool excursion. And great footage. I mean, usually whale watching, you see maybe a tail for a second, or there's one passing by, but to have one just banging on the water like that's like National Geographic footage right there.
Yeah, he was showing off for sure. He loved
now,
the attention.
You made a comment before the show that I thought was very telling about Alaska. Alaska's hit or miss weather. Like, you went mid-May, but you had some great sunny days. Really, a Chamber of Commerce day for Denali. And that was beautiful footage. I saw some of your other pics that were in the feed. The cruise stuff, you had good visibility because Alaska can be a lot of fog. But you had a friend went in July, and what happened?
They wore their jackets the entire time. It was cold in July. They actually had to put their winter jackets on because I noticed it in their pictures, and I said, oh my gosh, because we did have our jackets on when we started. But then as we got into Ketchikan, I think when we got off the boat in Ketchikan, it was 80 degrees out. So everybody was like, oh, you know, because everybody had winter clothes.
80 degrees in May in Alaska. Wow, crazy.
Yeah. It was
crazy.
odd.
So
Yeah.
Next up, I want to show a very quick clip of you flying over Denali National Park, and this is the weather she experienced. So there is something to mid-May. Now, one thing about mid-May is rates are cheaper. You're going to have less families, so less kids if you're going as adults, and you know you want to be away from kids because there's no school vacations going on at that time. And it's not going to have the longest day, but the days are still pretty long. But this is the shoulder season. Alaska only goes from mid-May to mid-September. And you went basically third weekend of September until you were back before even June, right?
Yes, we actually were back in the 28th or 29th. Yeah. So we were
with the last 2 weeks of May.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great time to go for all those reasons. And she had great weather visibility wise and even warm day. So keep that in mind. June and July are the peak time to go to Alaska, and June will have the longest days by a little bit, but you're going to have higher rates. There is something to go in September and May. So keep that in mind when you book your Alaska cruise.
I agree.
And we'll talk about the Alaska cruise season after we wrap up Sue's little tour here about can you cruise to Alaska this year? And that's a little iffy question right now. So next up, this is her quick clip of Denali National Park. Amazing Chamber of Commerce visibility on this clip. And stay tuned right now. Very brief clip. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very cool. You had a great trip. I mean, you raved about it, and then again, a lot of tips, a lot of feedback you gave me. I now share with clients about going in May. But hey, if you're flexible on dates, take a serious look at May, because I had a client that just got back, and all the reasons we talked about already that were big selling points. I've had clients book more shoulder season because of that.
Yeah, it's good education. I couldn't say one thing bad about the weather or the days that we were there. I think we had maybe one rainy day when we were on the cruise. I think it was honestly the one sailing day that we were before we came into port in Vancouver. And I think that was the only, but it was a day to just relax and gamble and whatever you wanted to do. It was nice. It was nice.
It's impressive. It's impressive to not have any rain on an Alaska trip, because Alaska, it's not bikini weather. It's not the Caribbean, but you're there for the adventure. And if you get great visibility, great weather, and see Denali like you did, that's just a bonus.
There actually was a day or two where people were sitting at the pool with their bathing suits on. Amazing. I mean, that's honestly how warm it was. Yeah, we got lucky. We got very lucky.
Amazing.
But, yeah. The
great testimony, too. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. It was your suggestion, David. I mean, honestly, I could have never, for as much as I am computer literate and love to be online and check I could have never put this trip together the way David put it together for us. I cannot say enough about how this package just was perfection when it comes to Alaska. It was very good. We enjoyed it very much, and I recommended him to everyone.
Yes, including your friend Margaret, who's now rebooked for next year, which we'll talk about in a second. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I am put my contact information down below if you know me directly from this show and looking to book Alaska or another vacation. If you know Sue directly, you can work with her. She is up to speed and a full service travel agent like myself and part of my agency, and we will team up together to work on your trip. And you've already booked some clients to Alaska, correct?
I have. Actually, I did a custom tour, an escorted tour, as a matter of fact. Basically, once I get off the airplane in Alaska, they take care of you from start to finish. They're doing sledding, they're doing helicoptering. Their trip was based on fishing. So they're doing 3 days of fishing in these remote areas. And so I'm looking forward to see, and hopefully they enjoy it. And I'm sure they will. It's exciting.
That's an impressive trip in Kensington Tours, correct?
Yes, Kensington Tours.
Yes. We have a phenomenal supplier who I've used: Thailand, Iceland, Portugal, Alaska. An amazing 40-day trip in Egypt, Israel, and Jordan.
Wow.
And then including diving that I helped arrange. And they're phenomenal. They are specialists in privately escorted travel, which is a big plus now because people want to avoid groups when they travel due to social distancing. So they're already up on that game, and they work in world markets worldwide. So if you guys like 100% escorted travel, it's a premium, but man, are you treated like kings and queens and basically Kardashian type travel. So keep that in mind. And then they even handle Alaska, and I recommended them for suicide. So try Kensington, and sure enough, they hooked you up with a good
and
trip.
They're very easy. Very easy to work with. They were terrific. Thanks for the recommendation.
You're welcome. Well, great story. If you're just joining on board, when the show's over, wind to the beginning. and watch and listen to Sue's entire story. We show her pictures and a couple of video clips from her trip from May of 2019, a Princess Cruise Tour, 10-night person cruise tour that was more Central Alaska, starting in Anchorage, Denali National Park, the Princess Lodges, the Princess Wildlife Train, then a 7-night southbound, which is the recommended way to do this, land first, then cruise. It's more of a kind of aesthetic kind of thing, more relaxation kind of thing, tour first and then cruise. And then 7 nights from Whittier, their port in Whittier, all the way down to Vancouver. That's the standard southbound cruise tour, and that's the one-way cruise we're talking about. The fact that it ends in Vancouver is very important when we talk about our travel update. So great story, Sue, and why don't you stay on board as I cover the update, because I want to get your opinions on some things. Yes. I do want to give a few quick shout-outs out there on people I've seen on the chat. If you guys have any questions, again, leave in there. I will have a couple fun trivia questions out there. No prizes today, some fun trivia. Frank Carlomatano, who I'll see tomorrow at Snappers every Sunday in Key Largo, he is now a show sponsor for my music. So that great music you heard in the beginning is Frank's music, and it's also on his iTunes CD. So check that out. And you can Frank Carlomatano or Amazonos is the album you can find on iTunes. I do have a screenshot in the beginning. If you watch it on my closing slides, I got a screenshot of Frank's information. But you can download his amazing CD at iTunes, and I play it every Sunday. And then, of course, he plays music live every Sunday at Snappers. He's actually based in Fort Lauderdale. And Google him online. He has a website where he plays at. He moves around in Fort Lauderdale. I also want to have a shout out to some locals that you may know. Tom Whitmer's on. Steve Crago, thanks you guys for being on board today. And Susan Lopez, Chad Radford, Larry Strickland. Marjorie, how's it going? Amy Slicer Gustafson and Dave Perta, how's it all going today? Lots of viewers out there, and if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat. Next, I want to pull up a map of Alaska that Sue and I will help you interpret. It's by far the biggest state, and I didn't pull out the map, Sue, but this is actually a map of Alaska superimposed in the continental U.S., and including the Inside Pass in the islands. Alaska goes from like the southeast U.S. to California. That's how big of a footprint Alaska has. Now, you don't see all that in one trip, but that's just how monstrous the state is. So let me go ahead and pull up this map here. And so this is a map of Alaska. It's our biggest state, the last frontier. It's our 49th state because Hawaii was the 50th. That's not a trivia question. And let me see how this looks online. Okay, let me get rid of the banner here. Now, Sue, how far north in Alaska did you go?
We just went to Denali. That was as far as we made it, which is Mount McKinley to McKinley. Oh, yeah, no. Let me take that back. Well, we flew over McKinley, so that was probably the northest we ever been. Well, yes. We went on the bus, and I to be honest with you, it's in the Yukon. Atlin, I think I recall, is the name of a small town, and that's where the suspension bridge was. Atlin, in the Yukon, was probably the northest we had been.
Excellent. Yeah, so on this map, where Sue's talking about is Fairbanks, North Star, Denali. Fairbanks on a normal cruise tour is as far north as you're going to go. And look how much more north there is up there. Now, there is not much up there for touring, a lot of oil fields and foresting in the summertime. But Alaska is a major big state. But when you do a Central Alaska tour, primarily you're going to be from Anchorage down that little red spot there, up north towards its Fairbanks, North Star. That's the primary tour. Some tours go to the Kenai Peninsula on the lower left. But really, anything north of that, you're going in serious extreme adventure Alaska. But there's a lot to see. Just in that area you're talking about is a few hundred miles, and it is chock full of Alaskan wilderness. Is that right, Sue?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's not much out there.
Yeah. But still a lot to see, right? In Denali, wow. As you saw in the video clips and pictures, it's gorgeous.
Just eye candy. I mean, all you want to do is look out the window. The bus was so quiet because there was just so much to take in, really.
Exactly. I mean, it's an adventure destination that you're going there to see something you've not seen before. You're going to see the tallest peak in North America, Mount McKinley, over 20,000 square feet. Denali National Park, one of the most amazing national parks in the world. And you can do that off a cruise tour. What's a cruise tour? It's a tour added onto a cruise. You could do it before or after, either a southbound or northbound 7-night cruise from most major cruise lines. And Princess is the one Sue's on because that's what I recommend, because to me, they're the gold standard. They've been doing this the longest. They have the most cruise tour choices. They have the most ships up there, and they just have it down. They almost own the lodges and part of the railroad. But keep in mind that if you want to tour all of Alaska, block a month. Never mind.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The Inside Passage we didn't even talk about yet is the green area on the lower right. That is, you don't even see mainland Alaska. If you do a 7-night cruise out of Seattle, you do just the Inside Passage as far north as Sitka, and that's all you see. You don't even get to Anchorage in the mainland. So that's why the cruise tour is so powerful. And that's why they're one-way cruises, because they have to travel a good day just to get into the Inside Passage. So that lower green on the right, let me max it out again to show you guys closer. The lower green on the right is the Inside Passage, and that includes the main ports of Ketchikan, Juneau, and Sitka. There are some other Hubbard Glacier, Glacier Bay. Those are more cruising destinations. There are a couple smaller ports depending on the cruise line that you go on. And then Uncruise Adventure, who's only a few cruises sailing this year for sure, because they're American-based, American-hulled, American staffed. They're sailing also a lot of smaller ports in there that are not listed here. But the main ones, Juneau, which is their capital, by the way, not a trivia question, which is truly landlocked. You can't drive there. The only way to Juneau is by cruise ship or by plane. And then Sitka in Ketchikan. And they're all used to tourists. They all have, how many cruise ships were in port when you were there in these different ports?
I would say probably 3 or 4 at the time. Some of those really large cruise ships that made ours look super tiny were in port. Yes. So yeah. You know what? I would make one suggestion though. The only thing that Don and I thought was when we went on the land package, I think they do offer 2 days in each location, because it seemed like you get in and then you'd have to put your bag out 5 o'clock the next morning, and you're a little time change deficient. So there's a couple of things going on there. I would suggest if they have a longer time in McKinley and, at the Denali Princess Lodge, I would actually add a day to each of one of those. That would be my suggestion. Yeah.
Very, very good suggestion. Very good suggestion.
Yeah.
The cruise tours vary. You can do anything from a 3 to a 7-night cruise tour. And I tell people, I've had clients that have done $8,000 trips. It's 7-night cruise tour Kenai Peninsula and 7-night Koa Princess southbound to Vancouver. And they loved it. Some of the lodges, they said, by the way, in the Kenai are a little older, so they're nowhere near as nice. But that's part of it, is you're in the rustic part of the wilderness there. So this is the last frontier, because they got that name because the explorers went west. They found Oklahoma. They found gold in California. And then once Alaska was becoming part of the U.S. territories to explore, it was truly, where else can you go? But space, and space is the final frontier. So Alaska truly is the last frontier. It's a bucket list trip for everyone, including myself. I still need to get to Alaska. And it's so good to share Sue's reaction and comments. She's truly an expert who did. To me, the appropriate way to do Alaska is, at the very least, a 3-night central tour up to Denali, ideally start in Fairbanks or Anchorage, and then work your way in the mainland Alaska, central Alaska. Again, that red tip of the mills Anchorage, and I'll zoom in again on the map. And the part just north is Fairbanks and Denali National Park. And then sail southbound to a port just south of Anchorage called Whittier or Seward. Seward's another port used by cruise lines. Whittier's proprietary for Princess and their brands. And then sail south to the Inside Passage, which is all the green area on the right. And there are some other areas, if you have time. Alyeska ski resort town is very fun. Wrangell National Park is huge, one of the biggest national parks in the country. Is up in the Alyeska area. Anchorage bid the Olympics a while back. I think it was from the 2002 that Salt Lake received. And actually the one Vancouver received, they bid on years ago. And they were going to have it all over Alaska, including Alyeska. So they have a lot of skiing in Alaska. If you are into skiing, you want to go in the wintertime. You can ride a sled dog if you want, if you're there in the wintertime. It's more of a summertime destination, but it has some wintertime attractions too. So that's the kind of summary of the Alaska geography. It's a monster state, but when you do your tours, you do mostly central above Anchorage, a little bit of Kenai on the western part if you go that route, and then the Inside Pass is all green on the map here. Very cool. Let me stop sharing the map. Now, what is happening with Alaska now? Can we travel there this summer? Yes, Alaska's been open even last summer. They were the first ones to institute rapid testing. They were the first ones to institute, having the ability to travel there if testing done. Uncruise Adventures did run a cruise last summer. They ran one or two when testing requirements were still iffy and false positives were coming out. But this summer coming up, Uncruise Adventures is sailing their internal cruises inside Passage, American-based cruise line. And then land tours can happen, Central Alaska, and then getting to the different ports can happen too. And we can help you with that because we represent land tour suppliers and not the cruise suppliers of Alaska. Globus Tours, who's very good. Kensington for private escorted. And there's a number of other suppliers too that specialize in Alaska we work with. And we have partners on the ground there. And I have fishing guides, you name it, we can get you a hookup and activity. The bigger question is what's happening with cruising to Alaska? Well, that's an iffy one. The major sailings that were involved in the cruise tours have been canceled because they would have to end in Canada. And right now, Canada has banned cruise ships over 100 people until like February of 2022. And that was an order they put in last year. They extended it for a few months. No, they extended it for a whole year, and it's crazy, just crazy. So right away, the cruise line realized that's a fight they can't win. They think they will win because cruise lines have to stop at least a foreign port of Victoria, which is where Bushgar Gardens is. And did you go there, Victoria, on your trip? No, because you went in Vancouver, right?
Right.
Yeah, so Vancouver's a great city. Victoria's a nice, smaller city, but they're known for these famous gardens that are partly modeled after in Epcot, Canada, and Disney World. And that's Bushgar Gardens. It's an amazing place, the biggest excursion there. Victoria is the main stop if you do a round trip Seattle. Foreign hold ships have to stop in a different cruise port, not due to the Jones Act, but due to the Passenger Services Act, which is related. They're kind of synonymous, which means if a foreign hold ship is out there, they can't just go from port to port of the U.S. They must go out to a foreign port and come back. The only foreign port on Alaska cruise from the U.S., Seattle or San Francisco, is Victoria. And that's Canadian property, and Canada does not want cruise ships right now because they're protecting their own from this current pandemic. Sue, so is that what you heard too on your end of your research for Alaska?
Yeah, Canada's definitely, well, because not only for Alaska, Canada, even for the cruises that come into Bar Harbor, from what I understand, they may not come in this year either because they go to Nova Scotia afterwards. So can't go to Canada. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen this season either.
It's a tough time for cruising international. Go to my YouTube channel, Fantastic Endeavors. Watch my show last week on Cruising is Back. It is back. And even more so now Disney's going from the UK, ports, Bermuda, close to the US, Europe has some cruises. So check out that show. I won't go into it here. But Alaska's a toughie because they're actually, there's a couple reasons for Alaska. So one is max 7-night cruise for cruises leaving the US right now. So they can sail to, like a Russian port, Vladivostok, a military base, but that would take 13 nights. And who would do that anyways? It's a lot of time at sea. And then, so without Canada, Alaska can't happen. Now, the cruises round trip Seattle are still active. And as always, I told you on previous shows, let the cruise line cancel you. Don't preempt the cruise line because the benefits are much better. And unless you have to make a final payment and they're forced to make the final payment, you don't want to invest that money, I understand. And talk to us if you have questions, just message us. They believe they can convince Canada, say, hey, let us just stop there. We won't get off the ship. And you just told me so far they've said,
no.
Nope. No. Canada's protecting their own. It's their country. And this is the problem when you have different countries and different ports. And never in a lifetime would I thought I'd see this, but this is a once in 100-year health event. And the cruising didn't exist 100 years ago to the level we have it now. And this is what we're dealing with. And so right now, numerous American-based cruise lines leaving from Seattle have not been canceled up until, I think, through June, but maybe July. As of right now, it doesn't look good for those. Every other major cruise, including your friend Margaret's, have been rescheduled.
Mhm.
every other major cruise that was southbound or northbound one way from Vancouver, since that would be, international travel and going in and out there, those have been canceled. That is so no typical cruise tour, northbound, southbound cruises from Alaska in 2021. That'll be 2 lost Alaska seasons for the cruise industry in that fashion. And despite Uncruise Adventures doing their cruises, which we can help you with, we represent them too, it doesn't look good for Alaska cruise season. And those vendors, I feel from all the places you visited, all the vendors you used, I hope they survive, because it's going to be tough on them to do that. But this is what we're up against right now. Things are getting better. Vaccines are getting out there. Cruises are now being announced. CDC, big announcement this week, by the way, a little side note for travel. They said if you're vaccinated, you can travel internationally. You can resume travel. Wear a mask, be safe, so on and so forth. That's the first time they say anything positive about travel.
Yeah.
So good news. They just need to say something positive about cruising travel, which we talked about in depth last week on my show. So that's where we're at. Land tours, yes. Land tours, all you want. Positive COVID test. I talked about my Hawaii show. I talked about my Hawaii update. Hawaii's open, very strict. Alaska, not so strict, and getting easier and easier, and getting a test easier. If you're vaccinated, I believe you're okay, but that's changing every day. Alaska has a great tourism website. Just Google Alaska Tourism, and they have their entries posted right there. I've met people on their board out of Anchorage and out of Juneau. They're just great people, really tourism focused. So go to Alaska. If you want to get out from the U.S. this summer and go to somewhere that's really amazing to see, go to Alaska. And then for really true cruises, I would say if you haven't booked yet, let's wait and see till 2022. Unless you want to pay a little extra money, then tour Uncruise Adventures. So what are your thoughts, Sue? Would you cruise Alaska again?
Yes, I would cruise Alaska again. Obviously, I would do a different itinerary, but I'd like to see more. Honestly, it's you don't see enough. It's just so beautiful and eye-catching. I can't say enough about it. Even in the day when it was cloudy, and it's still beautiful. We saw 2 glaciers when we were there. The Glacier Bay National Park cannot be visited by all cruise ships. Some are banned from there. However, Princess is not. We went to Hubbard Glacier first. And I can say we went in, he spun the boat around maybe a few times, and then we left. We weren't in there very long. But then when we went to Glacier Bay, wow, we got pretty close, and he just spun that boat for a couple of hours, it seemed. And the calving that was going on was loud. You could feel the water shake. It was amazing. It was an amazing spot. It was, they get you pretty close. It was very pretty. And the boat was very quiet. People were just standing there in awe. There's nothing else I can say. There was very little conversation. People were just watching and listening, watching the ice break. And it was very cool. It was very good.
Great story, but also great point. And this is why I recommend Alaska. They always have had the permits for Glacier Bay National Park, and not every cruise line has that. I won't say which brand. Certain brands have had a bit of a problem breaking some rules in Alaska years past. So
things like that.
But Princess, and I tell people, because you can do itinerary without Glacier Bay, and Hubbard Glacier is nice, but to me, that is the ultimate, is Glacier Bay, as far as a cruise excursion, because you don't get off the ship, correct?
No. He just, I think you have a picture of me with my feet up on the, yes, on the thing. Eventually you kind of figure out, well, we can go back to our room. It's coming back around on our side. So we would just go down and get a cocktail and then go sit out on our balcony. And because he goes very slow when he turns that boat around, and, it's like a moving picture, really.
Your pictures are fantastic. I mean, you guys had unbelievable weather from mid-May. It's a good argument how shoulder season is a great time to visit Alaska. And those you're interested in booking Alaska for May of 2022 or summer 2022 season, all the itineraries are out for there, and that is wide open. Everyone's expecting a full return to all cruise sailings worldwide. I'm booking worldwide right now. It's very busy, and everything, no one's holding back on itineraries. We all believe that we are now seeing the end of the daylight for this pandemic. But I always reach out to Sue directly. I'll put my contact information here. Sue, you can find on Facebook where you're watching her now. And Sue, how do they reach you by phone or email?
Actually, my phone number is area code 207-907-0507. Actually, my website is myvacationagent.com, and you can reach me through there.
Great domain, by the way. I saw your email. I'm like, hey, nice domain.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to believe that was available.
I couldn't believe it either.
I didn't get really the trivia today. I had a few questions. I do want to post one out there because it's just a fun question, and I'll just show it out there. It's kind of late in the show, but what is the nickname for the federal government's purchase of Alaska? Because it wasn't viewed so highly when it did happen. And do you know this, Sue?
No, I do not.
I do got a great hint if no one gets it. We've had I have a lot of people on, but it's pretty quiet on the comment side today. So see if I can spur them up with a quick trivia question. If not, we're going to close out the show and thank everyone for coming, because we've been talking about Alaska, an Alaska travel update, the last frontier, the 49th state. Yes, it's part of the U.S. Yes, you don't need a passport to go there. You can travel there for land tours, by air, domestic flight with just a driver's license. This summer, it is open for business, and we can help you out with that. We can do everything from a basic drive-in self-drive tour to a bus tour, social distance, of course, to a private escort travel, which is the recommended route of travel right now, and we can hook that up for you. Sue already has clients going this summer, Sue, or 2022?
Yes,
your clients?
We're going July. Yeah, we'll be going.
Fantastic.
July. Yeah.
Fantastic for you.
Yeah.
And then the cruises, Uncruise Adventures is sailing. They can, because they're beyond the CDC requirements. They're also American hulled, American staffed. They're not under the Passenger Service Act or the Jones Act, with this restriction to visit a foreign port. They do an in-depth tour of smaller itineraries in Alaska, which I'll cover on a separate show. I mean, I'm going to cover cruising in Alaska in depth and have Sue on again in the future once we get more news about what truly is going to happen this year. But Sue Mooney, it's been great having you on board. I'm going to leave the question out there. One hint is, if you're still watching, there's another famous cruise port in Alaska, and that may give you an idea of what this was called. But I know this since I was in grade school, because that's what they called it. It always stuck in my mind from grade school. So I'll leave that question up. So next week on the show, going to be Sunday, right back in Key Largo, Florida, my home studio. Going to have Ted Drever on from Concouse, talking about the Concouse restaurant, which you know full well of, Sue Mooney, when you lived here. Mm-hmm. Great restaurant here in the Keys. But he's mainly coming on to promote a special trip for the Upper Keys of the Rotary here, because I'm a fan of theirs. I have friends that are in there, and they're actually raffling off a really cool prize that he decided to come on next week, probably either in my office or directly. He's going to give me the details this week, and we're going to help him promote this a little bit and talk about what's happening in the Keys for dining, since we're overdue for a Keys dining update. So it's been a wonderful Easter weekend. Happy Easter weekend to you guys. We did the show on a Saturday. Thank you for joining me today, so you can free up Easter tomorrow. Sue, how are you spending Easter tomorrow? Anything fun going on?
We're just hanging tight. I'm cooking a ham and some scalloped potatoes, and the traditional Easter dinner. Our son is going to come over and just relax for the day, not have to work. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yes, that's a good thing. Well, listen, Sue, it was great to have you. Have a fantastic Easter Sunday, and we look forward to having you on the show. We're gonna have you on the show again soon. Yeah,
great. Thanks, David. I appreciate your time, and great show. Thanks.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Well, you guys have a fantastic weekend. It was great to have you on board today. If you get that trivia question, put it in the chat. As always, when the show ends and it goes into recording, wherever you're watching it, check that out. And please like it and share it when you watch it. It really does help us. And leave a comment. I do go back and watch comments. And follow all of our social media. The slides will be in our closing slide right here. And thank you again for the new show sponsor, Frank Carmelitano, Frank C, as he goes by on stage. I'll be seeing him tomorrow, every Sunday at Snappers for Brunch from 10:30 to usually 3:30 he plays. And this is his music. He's available on iTunes. Check him out. Frank Carmelitano, and check him out right now in our closing slide. You guys have a happy Easter Sunday weekend.